Hello and welcome. Have you ever heard of the Matrix? If you want to dodge bullets like Neo, then you have clicked on the wrong video. If you would like to learn how to multiply matrices, then you have come to the right place. Here's our first example that we will take you step by step through. These are both 2 by 2 matrices.
Okay, so the first thing you do is you multiply the first row of the first matrices by the first column of the second matrix. So what you'll be doing is you'll be multiplying 5 by 4, which is equal to 20, as well as 2 times 0, which is equal to 0, and then you add them downwards, which will give you the sum of 20, which is what you put in the very first area in the top left corner of your solved matrix. And then you do the same exact thing, but with the second column of the second matrix. So you'll be multiplying 5 by 6, which is equal to 30, as well as 2 by 1, which is equal to 2, giving you the answer of 32, which is what you put in the top right corner. And then you do the same exact thing with the bottom row of the first matrices. You multiply it by the first column, and so you multiply 1 by 4 and 3 by 0, which gives you 4 plus 0, giving you the sum of 4, which is what you put in the bottom left corner. And then you multiply it again by the second column again, just like you did with the first one. So you do 1 times 6, which is equal to 6, and 3 times 1, which is equal to 3. And when you add them, you get 9, which is what you put in the bottom right corner, and that's how you solve a matrix. Okay. So even though these two matrices have different dimensions, they're able to multiply because the columns in the first matrices and the number of rows in the second matrices match. So therefore you can multiply them, and this rule always applies. And the other two numbers, the 3 here and the 2 here, are going to be the dimensions of your final matrices. So your answer matrix will be a 3 by 2. Okay, so just like with before, you're multiplying the first row by the first column. And so you do 1 times 3 and 7 times 2, which is equal to 3 plus 14, which is 17. So that is the answer that you put in the top left column. And then you multiply 1 and 7 by the second column, so it'll be 1 times 0, which is equal to 0, and 7 times 4, which is equal to 28. And when you add them up, you get 28, which is your answer for the top left column. And then you go on to your second row in the first matrices, and you multiply it by the first row. So 3 times 3, which is equal to 9, and 4 times 2, which is equal to 8. And when you add them up, you get 17, which is what you put in the middle column on the left. Then you multiply it again by the second column in the second matrix, and you do 3 times 0, which is equal to 0, and 4 times 4, which is equal to 16. And when you add it up, you get 16, which is what you put on the right side of the middle column. Okay, so the last thing you do is you multiply the bottom row by the first column in the second matrix. So you do 2 times 3 and 6 times 2, which gives you 6 plus 12, which gives you the sum of 18, which is what you put in the bottom left-hand corner of your matrix. And then you multiply the bottom row by the second columns in your second matrix. So you do 2 times 0 and 6 times 4, which is equal to 0 and 24. And when you add it together, you get 24, which is what you put in the bottom right-hand side of your final matrix. Okay, however, when you flip the two matrices, they will not be able to multiply anymore, because as you can see, the number of columns in the first matrix and the number of rows in the second matrix are not equal, so therefore there is no solution. Take some time to pause the video and try to solve this, and then we'll show you how to solve it step by step. Okay, so the first thing you do is you multiply the top row by the first column in the second matrix. So you do 0 times -1, which is 0, and 6 times 0, which is also 0. So when you add it up, you get 0, which is the first number you put in the top left-hand corner of your matrix. And then you multiply the same first two numbers by the second column in the second matrix, and you do 0 times 2, which is 0, and 6 times -4, which is -24, giving you the sum of -24, which is what you put in the middle column of the first row in your answer matrix. Then you multiply the same first two numbers by the third column in the second matrix, and you do 0 times 9, which is equal to 0, 6 times 3, which is equal to 18, giving you a sum of 18, which is what you put in the top right-hand corner. And then you multiply the second row in the first matrix by the first row again, or the first column in the second matrix. And you do 5 times -1, which is equal to -5, and -3 times 0, which is equal to 0. And when you add them up, you get -5, which is what you put in the second row. Then you multiply the second row by the second column, and you do 5 times 2, which is equal to 10, and -3 times -4, which is equal to 12, giving you the sum of 22, which is what you put in the middle of that row. And then you do the second row by the third column, and you do 5 times 9, which is equal to 45, and -3 times 3, which is equal to -9. And when you add it up, you get 36, which is what you put on the right side. And then you do the same process with the last row. First multiplying it by the first column. So 2 times -1 is equal to -2, and 4 times 0 is equal to 0. And when you add them together, you get -2, which is what you put on the left-hand side of the bottom row of your answer matrix. And then you multiply the last row by the second column, and you do 2 times 2, which is equal to 4, and 4 times -4, which is equal to -16. And then you add them up, you get the sum of -12, which is what you put in the middle of the bottom row of your answer matrix. And finally, you multiply the last row by the last column, and you do 2 times 9, which is equal to 18, and 4 times 3, which is equal to 12. And when you add them up, you get 30, which is your final number in your answer matrix.